In the silence of a cold morning, a man walked slowly along a dirt road that crossed an old village. He was not a tourist, nor was he someone in search of rest. He was someone who had left everything behind. He had once been a business owner with properties and influential contacts. Now, he wore simple clothes and carried only a notebook in his hands. People wondered why someone with so much had decided to live with so little. What few knew was that he had not lost his wealth. He had simply understood what it really meant. For a long time, he was considered a model of success. His businesses grew rapidly, and his decisions always seemed spot on. He was the image of what many desired. But inside, he felt something was missing, a kind of emptiness that even financial results could not fill. And one day, without telling anyone, he sold almost everything, donated much of what remained, and left town. Years passed, and his presence was sought no longer by investors or advisors, but by people in search of understanding. Those who had questions that finance books couldn't answer. Those who want to know not only how to get rich, but how to make sense of what they were trying to achieve. One morning, a young man appeared at his door. His eyes were marked by exhaustion and frustration from constantly trying to improve his life. He didn't want magic formulas. He wanted to know why it seemed so difficult to create a prosperous life, even though he was always busy, always trying. "Can you teach me how to be rich?" he asked bluntly. The man did not answer right away. He invited him to sit down and placed 2 coins on the table. "Which of these 2 would you choose right now?" "The shinier one," replied the young man, almost without thinking. "And why?" "It looks newer, more valuable." The wise man smiled. "They are both worth the same, but appearances have deceived you. Most people do the same with their ideas. They judge by the packaging. They ignore the content. Wealth does not come from what is most eye-catching. It comes from what is most valued on the inside." The young man remained silent. The first thing you need to understand is that money does not respond to effort. It responds to value. And value comes from how you see yourself, how you act, how you vibrate. Do you want to be rich? First, learn to treat money as an ally. He picked up one of the coins and held it lightly between his fingers. When you have money in your hands, treat it as something important. Be thankful. Acknowledge it. Feel gratitude, even if it seems like little. The universe does not respond to quantity. It responds to the frequency of your relationship with it. So, even if I don't have much, I should be grateful, especially at this moment. Those who are grateful for the little they have are creating the ground to receive more. But those who complain block the flow. It's like a house with locked doors. What is good cannot enter. The young man reflected. For years, he had treated money with heaviness, fear, and anxiety. Now, he realized that all of this was pushing him further away from what he said he wanted. The second point, continued the wise man, is to understand that truly wealthy people don't just desire wealth. They dedicate themselves to it. They make it a real, daily choice. They're committed to growing, serving, and improving. They aren't waiting for a miracle. They're building a path. How can you commit without knowing what to do? Start small. Commit to the right mindset. Stop repeating that it's difficult, that it's impossible, that it can't be done. Change your speech. The words you repeat are the bricks of your reality. Are you building a prison or a bridge? That sentence made the young man lower his eyes. He remembered recent conversations in which he had said, more than once, it will never work. He understood, right then and there, that each of those phrases was a vote against his own prosperity. The third lesson is about focus. Those who prosper focus on opportunities. Those who remain in scarcity focus on obstacles. What you look at grows. What you observe comes closer. The world is full of both. The difference is in what you choose to see. But how can I change that? Ask yourself, what can I do with this? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That changing question changes your energy. And your energy changes your results. The conversation was just beginning, but the young man already felt a kind of clarity he had never experienced before. It was as if, for the first time, someone was illuminating the backstage of wealth, not with promises but with awareness. "And there's more," said the master. "You need to review how you react to the success of others." "How so?" "Many desire wealth, but feel uncomfortable when they see someone prosperous. They criticize, envy, discredit, and that feeling creates a block. You will never receive something you secretly despise. Envy is like saying to the universe, 'I don't want to experience this.' And the universe responds to your feelings, not your words." The young man swallowed hard. It was true. He had already been bothered by seeing other people's achievements. He had felt anger at seeing others grow while he stagnated. Now he saw that he was pushing away exactly what he said he wanted. So what should I do? Celebrate. Bless. See a beautiful house and say, "That's possible for me." See success and say, "That's inspiration." What you admire, you draw closer to. What you reject, you push away. The wind blew gently. There was something in the air, a kind of silent presence that enveloped everything. The young man felt that there, in that conversation, were answers that years of effort had never revealed to him. "It all seems so simple," he said in a low voice. "It is. The mind complicates things, but the universe is straightforward. What you put out comes back to you. What you hold on to manifests itself. What you value remains. And it all starts with a choice, to continue in the old pattern or to start a new way of being." If you feel that this content has clarified something within you, like this video now to affirm your commitment to this new vision, comment here. "I am ready to build a new relationship with money," and share it with someone who needs to change from the inside out before getting rich on the outside. The real turnaround begins where no one is looking, inside the mind. The afternoon was slowly advancing, and the sun was drawing golden shapes on the stones along the path. The young man, still immersed in the morning's conversation, remained silent. There was something in his expressions that indicated change. Not a grand and immediate change, but the kind of transformation that begins as an internal adjustment and becomes permanent. The old master, sitting before him, watched in silence. He knew that this was the moment to deepen the teachings. "Now that you understand the value of attention, focus, and vibration," he said calmly, "it's time to talk about a pattern that defines the reality of many people without them realizing it: the way they treat desire." The young man looked at him curiously. He had heard a lot about having desires, setting goals, and dreaming big, but he had never stopped to reflect on how he was relating to his own desires. "Most people don't truly desire," continued the master. "They desire as if they are dreaming of a distant prize, as if they are waiting for a coincidence. They want it, but they don't commit. They think about it, but they don't choose it. And above all, they desire it and deny it at the same time. How do they deny it? They deny it when they feel angry at those who already have it. They deny it when they say it's difficult, unfair, or unattainable. They deny it when they say it's not for them. It's like lighting a candle and then blowing it out with your own hands. The energy becomes confused, and the universe responds with silence." The young man absorbed every word like a new map being drawn in front of him. Rich people don't just want wealth. They live as if it were inevitable. They don't doubt the possibility. They don't argue with the future. They hold on to their certainty in silence. And that's what sets them apart. The master then took a small piece of paper and wrote 2 sentences. "I want to be rich. I am becoming rich." Read both aloud, he asked. The young man obeyed. "Which one sounds more real?" "The second one." "Why?" "Because it sounds active, as if it were already happening. And that's exactly the point. Words create realities. Those who live saying they want something are reinforcing that they don't have it yet. Those who say they are becoming something are already vibrating with the possibility. and the universe respects that vibration. At that moment, the master presented another essential principle. Money responds to your consistency. Thinking one thing, feeling another, and acting contrary to both creates confusion. And that energetic confusion blocks the flow. And how do you align everything? Start with your thoughts. Watch what you say to yourself when you see a bill, when you pay a bill, when you think about the future. Then adjust your feelings. If you feel guilt, fear, or anger when dealing with money, observe and transform that. Finally, align your actions. Get organized. Honor your commitments. Give thanks before you spend. Celebrate when you receive. That is consistency. But is that enough? It's enough to pave the way. Then you need to take the next step. Act like someone who respects themselves financially. Don't wait until you have a lot to start. Start small, but with dignity, with intention, with clarity. The young man wrote everything down in his notebook with dedication. It was as if each sentence was a key unlocking a forgotten part of his consciousness. And now, said the master, let's talk about one of the biggest invisible blocks, resentment. Resentment, yes, against those who have, against those who have achieved, against those who shine. Silent envy is one of the biggest anchors of scarcity. The young man lowered his gaze. He knew exactly what the master was talking about. How many times had he felt uncomfortable seeing someone else prosper? How many times had he thought, why him and not me? Now he understood that by doing so, he was distancing himself from his own possibility of growth. What you desire, you must bless, said the master firmly. See a beautiful house? Bless it. See a luxury car? Bless it. See a happy couple? Bless them. Everything you react to with love comes closer to you. Everything you judge moves away. But what if it's someone who got rich in a dubious way? It's not your place to judge. The energy you put out comes back to you. And every judgment is like a thorn planted in your own path. Choose to keep your field clean. This part of the conversation was one of the most challenging for the young man. He had to re-examine several beliefs that had been with him for years. And little by little, he understood that thinking like a rich person was much more about internal attitude than bank balance. Poor people feed the habit of pointing fingers. Rich people choose to learn. That's the difference that changes everything. The master stood up and walked over to a small bookcase. He picked up an object and returned. It was an hourglass. He turned it in front of the young man. Time passes for everyone, but what you do with it defines who you become. Do you want wealth? Then use time as an ally. Invest in it. Feed your mind with what builds you up. Surround yourself with lofty ideas. Replace distraction with construction. Wealth is not speed. It is consistency. The young man took a deep breath. He was beginning to understand that the path to prosperity was more internal than he had imagined, and at the same time, much more accessible than it seemed. And when things seem stagnant, that's part of the process. The soil doesn't show the seed germinating, but it's there alive, working silently. Trust the invisible, but keep watering with your actions. Keep aligning yourself. Keep blessing. Manifestation is inevitable when the vibration is right. What if I make a mistake? You will make mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes teach us, but never give up. Adjust, learn, start again. Consistency beats talent. Persistence overcomes doubt. It was late afternoon. The golden light touched their faces. But there, in that space of truth, there was no hurry, only presence. Always remember this, concluded the master. What you desire is also looking for you, but it only finds you when you become compatible with it. If you feel that this content has triggered something in you, like this video right now, it's more than just a click, it's a vibrational choice. Comment below, I am compatible with the wealth I desire, and share it with someone who needs to align their inner self before waiting for the outer self. True prosperity begins invisibly. and ends up transforming everything. The last rays of the day filtered through the leaves of the trees, casting soft shadows on the dirt floor. The young man stood before the master, this time in absolute silence. His mind was no longer burdened with questions. He was absorbing. What had once seemed complex was now beginning to take shape with clarity. The master sat serenely, watching. He knew that the hardest part had already been done, breaking through the invisible barriers of limited thinking. Now it was time to consolidate the fundamentals and conclude the teaching. So far, he began calmly. You have understood the value of intention, the power of words, the importance of consistency, and the impact of vibration. But there is one last key. Without it, everything else is lost. That key is identity. The young man looked up, attentive. Who you believe you are determines what you think you deserve. And what you believe you deserve defines what you accept or reject in your life. The silence that followed was different. It was heavy with meaning. The problem is that many people live with an identity of scarcity, continued the master. They see themselves as survivors, as unlucky people, as someone who has to be content with little. And that self-image is like an invisible fence. Even if money tries to come in, they push it away, because inside, they feel they don't belong there. And how do you change that? Asked the young man. By changing what you repeat to yourself. By changing what you believe you are. When you say, I am someone who attracts prosperity, your mind begins to look for evidence of that. And eventually, it finds it. The young man thought about the times he had said things like, that's not for me, I'm terrible with money, I can never save anything. Now he realized that, without knowing it, he had been programming himself to fail. Every time you define yourself by a limitation, you reaffirm a destiny you don't want, said the master. Change begins when you choose new words, new thoughts, and new feelings about who you are. He stood up and walked slowly to a wooden box where he kept his personal belongings. He took out a small mirror and handed it to the young man. Look at yourself and say, I am someone who is capable of prospering with awareness. I am worthy of the wealth I am building. Say this every day until you believe it. And when you believe it, everything around you will begin to respond. The young man held the mirror as if it were a relic. For the first time, he saw the reflection of someone who could change his story. Now comes another principle, continued the master. The rich plan their future with intention. The poor live trapped in the past or dominated by the urgency of the present. What do you mean? Those who live in scarcity are always putting out fires, always reacting. They never stop to build. They are too exhausted to create. The rich, on the other hand, have vision. They look ahead. They ask, what can I sow now to reap later? They make choices based on what they want to experience, not what they want to avoid. And how do you change that behavior? With strategy. Start setting aside time, attention, and energy for your long-term construction. Set aside time to think, to study, to create. Get out of survival mode and into creation mode. Only then will life respond with expansion. The young man wrote everything down carefully. Each line seemed to illuminate a new part of his understanding. And now, one of the most powerful things I can teach you, said the master. The rich get moving. The poor wait. Wait for what? The perfect chance. The right day. The ideal amount. The external signal. Meanwhile, the rich act with what they have, the way they can where they are. They don't wait to have everything to get started. They start, and movement generates response. Life respects those who move. The young man thought about how many times he had waited for better conditions to act, and how so many times the ideal moment never came. Now he understood, the ideal doesn't come. It is built along the way. What if I make a mistake again? You will make mistakes. But those who make mistakes while moving forward learn. Those who stand still deteriorate. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be afraid of not trying. The master walked over to a small fire burning in the center of the courtyard. He picked up a piece of wood and placed it on the fire. See, wood only becomes flame when it enters the heat. Transformation requires exposure. It involves risk, but that's what generates light. Don't be afraid to shine. The young man smiled. For the first time, he understood that his constant hesitation was not caution. It was fear in disguise, and that the price of paralysis was always higher than the risk of acting. And finally, said the master, remember something that few understand. Money is not the end. It is a reflection of who you decide to be. The reflection of your vibration, your choices, your mindset. If you want more money, take care of the root. And the root is you. That phrase echoed inside the young man. It was as if all the teaching could be summed up in it. Money is not the end point. It is the mirror of what is being cultivated within. True wealth, concluded the master, is being someone with whom abundance wants to remain, and that is built day after day, with small actions, with high thoughts, with aligned feelings, and with firm decisions. The sun had disappeared, but there, in that conversation, everything was clearer than ever. The young man stood up. His body was the same, but inside, he was a different man, lighter, stronger, clearer, not because he had discovered a formula, but because he had finally understood that the key was not outside. The key had always been within him. If this message has reached you, like this video right now, this is more than a gesture. It is an energetic affirmation. Comment here. I am the reflection of the abundance I am creating, and share it with someone who needs to remember that transformation begins in the mirror and ends in reality. What you're looking for is also looking for you.